So there's two basic issues. And again, there's so many dimensions to this. One is just the general question of the legality of the president without any authorization from Congress killing people in the Caribbean with drones. And then there's the specific case of this one instance where apparently two people were killed after their ship was destroyed and they posed no actual threat. Let's talk about the first one first, because there are people who think this whole thing is unconstitutional and illegal. You originally, if I read your oeuvre correctly, you originally thought that was illegal, but now you think it's justified?
Well, I got to tell you, when I first started hearing about the drone bombing, speedboat attacks in the Caribbean, I thought, this is crazy illegal. This is murder. The analogy I give is, imagine, because, the claim all along was that these boats are carrying cartel drugs to the United States. And, what I said was, look, imagine a woman from Venezuela lands at, Miami airport and some, drug sniffing dog indicates that she's carrying drugs from Venezuela into the United States, and officers take out their guns and shoot her on the spot. You can't do that. That's called murder.
Yeah.
Drug smuggling is a crime, not normally viewed as an act of war. You cannot kill people just because you suspect they're criminals. I thought open and shut case. But yeah, Mark, the more I looked at it, excuse me, honestly, the more complicated it got. It's not nearly that simple. And I can tell you exactly why. You want me to go into that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, just did you rely on precedent or just reasoning?
Well,
why did you turn from thinking this is akin to shooting a lady in the line at the Miami airport to saying that this is in fact okay?
Well, so here's what's going on. As you, I'm sure, know, President Trump has issued a notice, a letter of notification to Congress saying we are in a state of war, basically, with Latin American drug cartels. Now, a lot of folks say that's ridiculous. They're importing drugs. That's not war. What are you talking about? But legally speaking, the question is, who gets to make that call? Who decides if the United States is in a state of armed conflict? Technically speaking, that's what it is, state of armed conflict with these drug cartels. Well, guess what? There's precedent going back 100 years, over 100 years, saying that from the Supreme Court saying, you know what? It's the president who makes that call. The president determines if the United States is in a state of armed conflict or essentially a state of war with, even non-state actors that are belligerents against us in some way. So the Supreme Court said that is not for the judiciary to review. If that's right, the president's made that determination and we are in a state of armed conflict, and that's the end of it. The president makes that call. Now, that what happens next is, okay, what does that mean? What that means is the law of war applies. It doesn't mean the president can just shoot and kill anybody he wants. No, the law of war applies. And then the question is, in a law of war, can you attack a ship that's carrying cargo that's commercially valuable to the enemy? It's carrying enemy cargo that's commercially valuable, it's going to make money for it. Answer is yes. There's 100 years of precedent saying yes, you can attack vessels in the open seas that are carrying financially valuable cargo that belongs to your enemy. So,
right. Okay, so let's say there were some Marines on the U.S.-Mexico border. Let's get away from the lady at the airport, and a truck comes driving towards them, and their surveillance says that truck's got 20 drug dealers on it, and it's filled with drugs, and they're driving towards the border. Can they take out a missile and shoot that truck?
Well, so. First of all, you got to look at, what has the president said with respect to this armed conflict? Let's say the president determined. Let's say he said we are in a state of war with Mexico. Let's just say that for 1 second.
Well, no, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got to be more specific in my hypothetical. These are the same nationality as the people on the boats. So they're not necessarily Mexico. They just happen to be in Mexico, just as the people the president's killed already happen to be in the water. If you put it on land, could you kill him?
Okay, I'm going to give an answer to this you're not going to be crazy about. So the law of naval operations is not the same as the law of ground operations. So there is clear precedent going back a long time saying you can attack merchant vessels. Can you attack a merchant truck on land? Can you send a missile?
Is a different standard about a truck than a boat?
Well, here's the difference. The boat's on the high seas. Yeah. So in your hypothetical, he's committing an act of war on Mexican soil. And
Okay,
all
what
you
if what if it's a plane flying above the water? Can you shoot it down?
Yeah, he might be able to. Yeah.
Might be able to. All right.
Yeah.
Now, you know they're constitutional experts, members of Congress who disagree with you, right? Who disagree on this question. We're not to the second question yet about a shipwreck. How could it be that you are so certain you're right and other people are so certain they're right? Is it different interpretations of the law?
Now, hang on. I got it. That's so funny, Mark, that you would say that, because in the piece I wrote in the Free Press, what I said is it's more complicated. There is a potentially valid legal basis, because I myself thought there wasn't, and everybody's saying it's outrageous. What I'm saying is there's more of a legal basis here than people were giving it credit for. I mean, ultimately, here's the thing. Are we ever going to get a judicial ruling on this? For over 100 years, presidents with increasing regularity have been bombing. Obama bombed countries, Bush bombed countries. In fact, the bombing of Iran, the nuclear facilities, very similar in a certain sense. He drops a bomb on Iran. Did Congress declare war on Iran? Everybody's talking about, some people objected to that, but legally speaking, presidents drop bombs and have done so with impunity, gathering impunity for the last 50 years. And the courts have refused, for better or worse, they've said, look, this is not our call to make. We will not resolve this. So that's where we are.
I think in your podcast, you leaned a little bit harder into not just saying it might be okay, but to be saying it's justified. You may not agree with it as a matter of policy, but it's justified. It's justifiable under the law, right? That's the position you have now on just this general thing of blowing up boats. And you're saying the courts can't intervene, but Congress could. And again, for many, Congress is supposed to declare war. And the president, like his predecessors since the end of the Cold War, they all make a mockery of the notion that Congress declares war. Even in the case of George W. Bush, when he went to get a resolution after 9/11, Congress watered it down. They didn't give him as much authority as he wanted. And then paradoxically, every president since then has used the watered down authorization to do whatever they want under the banner of that one resolution. For the most part, presidents don't even ask Congress for a resolution. President Trump didn't go to Congress and say, I want us to declare war as a nation, as the Constitution says, on narco-terrorists. He just is doing it. So can Congress step in? I know they won't, but could Congress step in and say, Mr. President, you can't do this?
Yes, they sure can. And, a president like Donald Trump might say, no, they can't. But under existing law, if Congress passed a statute saying you've got to stop these bombings, there would be very good, strong precedent that statute trumps whatever power the president is exerting. But here's the thing. Here's the crazy thing. It's been over 200 years. We do not have clear judicial rulings, clear case law on the line that separates the president's power as commander-in-chief from Congress's power to declare war. And, President George Washington thought, I can't do anything with the troops, anything substantial, without congressional authorization. But in the 20th century, presidents started doing all kinds of stuff without authorization. Just to give you a couple of examples. So Clinton bombed Kosovo, 1999, no congressional authorization. Obama bombs Libya, 2011, no congressional authorization. And they do it more and more. Many of us have been saying, what is happening here? We are now living in a world where the president can make war. The one thing we knew was that the president did not have the unilateral power to make war. But so what the president's lawyers have been saying is, we're not starting a war. We're just dropping some bombs.
Right.
War, the president's lawyers, the Office of Legal Counsel has said, that's a sustained boots on the ground invasion. That's war. If we just drop some bombs, we can do that. And that is the existing state of the law right now in the United States.
Right. And presidents of both parties for about 50 years have had that attitude, and Congress has been too feckless to step in. If you're a homeowner in America, you need to listen to this. The FBI is warning about a type of real estate fraud on the rise called title theft, and your equity is the target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on just a single document, then use a fake notary stamp and file the document with the county. Just like that, on record, they own your home. Using your ownership, they can take out loans against your equity or even sell your property. And you won't know about any of this until foreclosure or collection notices show up in the mail. That's why I'm partnering with Home Title Lock, so you can protect your equity and find out today, right now, if you're already a victim. Use my promo code MARK at HometitleLock.com, and you'll get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title records, urgent alerts to any changes. And if fraud does occur, their US-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix it. Don't be a victim. Protect your equity today. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code MARK.